Hello friends, this is me. I've been thrown to the ground thanks to this man grabbing my skull and shaking me like a dog with a chew toy. My limbs are snapped and his boys are about to give me the old Birmingham hello. This is not a unique fate for this video. Cheeky grizzly bear over there. Oh, over there we have a goblin with a pike, as well as being torn apart by something known only as the consort of the lumbering creature. This is what happens when you try to beat Dwarf Fortress going in blind on the hardest possible settings and not allowed to look anything up. For those unaware, beyond being the recipient of the biggest GLARP award, Dwarf Fortress is infamously one of the most complicated games around, with mechanics allowing you to interact with almost everyone and everything in ways that you really shouldn't have imagined. Unfortunately for me, I have yet to experience ego death, leading to an artificially inflated sense of my own abilities. This is despite sending all of my money to a religious group based out of Arizona. This unfounded arrogance has led me to today's challenge. I have to beat the chosen questline in the Dwarf Fortress adventure mode on the hardest possible difficulties, without googling or doing any of the tutorials. There are a couple of other rules. For example, if a character dies, I have to start all over again. So how many attempts will it take I, Laith, to defeat Dwarf Fortress's adventure mode going in completely blind? Our first attempt is Lali DentButtons, the Sense Deviants of Warn. Before you laugh at the randomly generated name, I need to remind you that some people watching this video right now are called Bradley. And if I'm supposed to pretend that's a name that belongs in civilized society, you can do the same for Lali DentButtons. When you create a character in Dwarf Fortress, you do things like assign a profession, a background, skills, and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, my modern profession of cryptocurrency scammer was not in the game yet, so I selected trader, something I'm sure will come in handy. Going through our skills, I clicked this button to do what I think was hack into the Pentagon. Navigating to a more friendly user interface, I dropped all skills related to social ability in favor of strength and recovery, making me sort of like a well-adjusted gorilla or a poorly socialized gym bro. Once we'd established that Lali DentButtons, the Sense Deviants of Warn, hated things like perseverance, freedom and independence and wanted to rule the world, we were off. Now this is technically a sandbox game, so the game offers us all manner of choices, like for example, rescuing a kidnapped child, before immediately, like I was last night, being non-consensually contacted by the god of death himself. Setnek the Mucus.
Greetings, I am Setnek the Mucus, and I have chosen you as my instrument of death. The remnants of creation, the elemental stone, belong with my followers, the cult of Uhos. Seek out Malfold Bannervigor in the Chapel of Filth and fulfill your destiny.
This quest log here is our victory condition. Once we do everything our god tells us, we can end the video and go and lament the fact that Tom Scott has left the platform. Heading to the Chapel of Filth, where I was directed to go, which incidentally was the rejected name for the United Kingdom, we stopped to talk to some locals. I attempted to engage with Dwarf Fortress's admittedly impressive and expansive dialogue options, ranging from things to bartering to general greeting and boasting. Unfortunately, after I said hello, they ran away.
Oi! Come back! Oh, come on, come back! God's sake.
But look at this face! Who would run from that? Using the directional clues in cardinal directions from the quest log, I located High Blister Malfold, which is either a priest or a registered sex offender. Maybe both. After offering our services as instructed, we are told to retrieve the elemental stone from Torridskar for the Cult of Uhos. This is going to be the format of every attempted playthrough. We are going to wake up in a world, be claimed by some sort of god, be instructed to go to a priest, collect a quest, then be told to go and get an item from a lair. And then we're done. Simple, right? I am blessed with untold arrogance and self-belief, and so instead of doing something like prepare, I simply ran in the direction we were told to go. After traveling on the world map, Mr. Death told us to get ready and to go down to the local map to proceed on foot. Arriving at night, the Sense Deviants of Warn truly lived up to their name, as instead of picking up on any sort of context clues like the conversations happening inside or even the game directly telling us, "Hey dumbass, this area is dangerous, do not walk in the front door." I walked through the front door. Hello? Ah! To summarize, we've been told to rob this place, and I've walked in to see what is described as a recessed-chinned mace man, a reticulated python, and a goblin fondling himself in the corner. This is where the lack of playing the tutorial and inability to Google anything without breaking the rules, such as how to win Dwarf Fortress, leads to situations like me in life-threatening combat, punching their right hand with my left hand. I did try to engage in the wrestling side of things, given that we were a wrestler, but with such options such as grab the first finger of his right hand with our right hand, I was a little bit out of my depth. In response to this, the maceman, and I quote, bashes you in the head with her iron flail, fracturing the skull. This also jerks our head back, fracturing our spine. So what followed was a goblin crawling around on the ground, unable to stand up as a man repeatedly bashed him with a flail. This led to a compound fracture of our right arm, a complete fracture of our left arm, severed arteries in both hands, fractures to the spine, skull, and... This is Irene ClearingFaded, the limp anvil trash confine of Tug. I had a lot of fun with the random name generator. The rule was only one randomization, and it was amazing every time. He is an elf bowyer. He makes bows and specializes in bows. And because I enjoy stereotyping both in my gaming life and my personal life and my spare time, he loves the wild places. He also loves violence. This time we're beholden to the goddess of earth and volcanoes. But before I could make it to the temple, I stumbled across a bit of a strange sight.
What the hell's going on here?
Two elves had gotten into a fight, with one lying at the feet of the other with blood everywhere. I did try to ask what happened, but they weren't really interested in telling me. Taking a look at their injuries, there's a good amount of damage, including a torn artery used to paint a sick form of modern art on the ground. Sensing opportunity, I did what any good Samaritan would do. I carefully took aim at the standing elf and attempted to shoot him in the upper body. However, I missed. Presumably embarrassed by my lack of skill, the elf immediately said, "I must withdraw," and then ran away. This left me alone with a crippled victim on the floor, or as I like to call him, experience points. Given my lack of a melee weapon, what followed was me punching and kicking a disabled elf as he repeatedly vomited due to his injuries. He eventually yielded to the sweet relief of death after he tripped me up and I sent an arrow into his skull. Not sure why I didn't start with that, but, you know, we learn. After this, I was inspecting the copious amounts of bile, blood, and bodily fluid on the ground when I misclicked and accidentally filled my quiver with his cocktail of liquid. Disgusted, I left the scene immediately, only to stumble upon a group of elves moving in my direction to see what the commotion was. Upon seeing what was left of their fellow citizen, they understandably became enraged and started looking for the culprit, which I took as my cue to hurry things up and leave. Fortunately, the temple I needed to go to was in the opposite direction, so with that little saga behind us, the priest informed us we needed to retrieve the Elder Cloudstaff from Cloudumbra. I headed straight there, and upon entering the lair, I was confronted by a maceman and what can only be described as a sentient pile of rocks. I shot at the figures, hitting them once or twice before realizing they were approaching me very, very fast, and I had to run away very quickly. Unfortunately for me, I did not realize that my character was both hungry, tired, and also thirsty. These are survival mechanics that exist in Dwarf Fortress that I did not know about yet. So, because of the aforementioned tiredness, the Axeman quickly catches up and relieves us of our left hand. This not only forced us to drop our bow, but somehow also hit our quiver, spilling our treasured elf blood and vomit all over the ground. To make matters worse, the Rockman then punches Irene in the neck, severing several important motor neurons, leaving him unable to stand. From there, it's a quick stomping to end the story of Irene. By now, you've probably realized that Dwarf Fortress really doesn't pull any punches, and it's at this moment that I was sat staring at my screen thinking, what the hell have I just gotten myself into? This is going to be impossible. Remember, I'm not allowed to Google, and I haven't done the tutorial, meaning trying to figure out all the mechanics and keyboard shortcuts of this game without access to medical-grade mind-altering drugs was going to be almost impossible. To give you just a sense of how long and hopeless this entire challenge was, two failed runs have been happening behind me whilst I've been talking. Still, each life and subsequent death, I learned just one little more mechanic, just one little tip I can use for the next one. And this next life teaches me a very important mechanic: pets and companions. Well, pets, I didn't realize that you could get people as companions, but pets! This is Ves Drinkobstacles, the Harmony Help life hero of Cake. A swords dwarf by trade. On my way to the temple, I found this.
The dog's following me. Oh, it's cool, we've got two pet dogs, look at that.
That's right, we now have a whole pack of savage beasts ready to help us. So when we were told to get the Elder Stone from the Cave of Yawning, I was sort of quietly confident, because the United States Police Force has not yet been added into Dwarf Fortress.
Let's get in. Oh no! Bears, run! No, my dogs!
I will say that the stray, underfed, and malnourished dogs did rather well, leaving 2 of 3 grizzly bears dead. However, watching one of their fellow pack member dogs be torn apart with their guts going everywhere, by a grizzly bear was enough for them to make the smart choice and run away, leaving Ves as bait. Given that he was facing a grizzly bear and a fully armored goblin, it wasn't long before tendons were snapped, arteries were severed, and there goes Ves. It was at this point I realized we needed a change of pace. See, goblins, elves, and humans and dwarves aren't the only things available. The world you generate is completely unique with an entire history before you click play, and in this world I generated, a necromancer had been doing weird experiments leading to a new species.
The hell is this Fist of Night or the Night's
We went with Fist of Night, described as a small-scale humanoid with a short trunk. Lucky mate. This species was created by a necromancer, something that will be very fitting very shortly. After Rodoh Swallowblinded, the Father Sadness Man-Lambs of Mother was named, it was time to get going. However, immediately after being told to retrieve the Elder Stone from Guttereat, he got lost.
What is this?
It looked like this was some sort of crypt with like human corpses and bones everywhere. I then found out that you could pick up these corpses and put them into your inventory. And then the game offered me a choice. Eat or drink this item. And clicking it ended up with something worse than both of those.
Oh, no!
Anyway, we were told to go north, but north is a massive lake and I'm pretty sure this thing can't swim, and so we opted to go the long way around. On the world map, you can see various structures, for example towns or these red dots which are hostiles that sometimes chase you. And then there's this. I had no clue what this was, and so naturally I wandered in. I'd like to stress that every time that I have done this in real life, it has not ended well, and as this is a hyper-realistic game, it also doesn't end well. Walking up to the front door, I found a heavily injured elf, and then more heavily injured creatures. Now, you might expect me to immediately attack them given my track record, but I showed remarkable restraint and didn't kill them. And then I found more creatures that looked like me. Given our introduction, you'd think this would be a little bit of a hint as to what this was. I wandered around the tower for a bit until I stumbled into this human risen one, and given he was neutral towards me, I didn't really expect what happened next. Oh! I introduced myself, at which point he promptly picked up a knife. Now, this didn't startle me because I live in the UK and this is just a common greeting. What I didn't expect was for him to raise the dead. I will say it wasn't necessary for him to raise the dead because he simply just grabbed hold of our head and shook us until we died. This was the start of a long series of consecutive runs where I never even made it to the lair. Hell, I never even made it to the priesthood. Here we have the hedonistic wrestler, Umil Autumnsandal, the Cobra-Chaos Umber. Now this time we were chosen by a god of the sea, which meant he referred to us as his instrument of fish, which is actually what my local chippy is called. Shout out the 8% UK audience that will understand that reference. Dwarf Fortress is a tricky game to navigate, so firstly with this character, I kept on getting trapped in storerooms, and then somehow I was stuck on a roof for a while. I really couldn't find the church, place, priesthood thing anywhere, so I decided to go south and then try and re-enter the city. But upon going south, I stumbled across this.
What is this place? What? Huh? Oh, I'm very lost.
A weird figure known only as the consort of the lumbering figure. Not only launched a roundhouse kick that shattered our right hand, but also started to try and convert me to some sort of agriculture religion. As a staunch fish believer, we nobly tried to attack and fight this heathen. However, this creature was around 300 years old, has 2 children, and literally feels nothing in conflict. Rather like your mother. I mean, the description of this monster is literally, now you know why you fear the night. Given these factors, I decided to sprint away, but after tearing our sword from us and chasing us out of the lair, it used 4 to 5 attacks a turn to target each of our limbs in turn, before eventually targeting our neck and killing us. To this day, I still have no clue what this creature was. I have no ideas. I don't intend on googling it to find out. Next up is Teshi Groovewashed, the band-thinned Malice-Punch of wonder, but don't get too attached. This time I opted to grab 2 war dogs and a crow for our party, and when we spawned in, we had the 2 war dogs, but no crow. And that made me sad and upset, and that was only made worse when, after 15 minutes of searching, I couldn't find the priest I was meant to talk to start the quest. I found the priesthood, I found the temple or church, whatever you want to call it, but there was no priest. I searched everywhere for 15 minutes. Eventually I assumed that they were on some sort of lower level that there was no path to, and so I opted to jump into the water. After which I realized that this was actually just a pit of water with no way out, and then I drowned. And then I found the crow. Here's what I assume this would have looked like. The next 3 runs, I failed to even meet the priest, and at this point, it felt like the game itself was trying to tell me something. And buddy, I was picking up what it was putting down.
You're an ardent worshipper, the human god of suicide.
At this point, I was also perilously ill, like really ill when recording. I've only just recovered to record this voiceover, which didn't help. This is Vadene Stirforked, the Sear-inked Cobra-Chaos of Cut. They are a proud owner of 4 war dogs and 1 random dog, because it was expensive. Our mission this time was to retrieve the primal stone from the crack crescents for the sect of phantoms. On our way out there, we were chased by this red dot. Now, a red dot on the world map, like I've said, is a hostile, and so I tried to run away, but it was faster, meaning I eventually had to stand my ground. I found out that this was what is described as a human lasher, an individual that uses a lash, or a whip, to fight with. Now, at this point, I had picked up some tricks, considering it had been like 4 hours of Dwarf Fortress, and so I repeatedly stabbed the man in the hand until he dropped the whip, at which point the war dogs went to town. So looking back at this footage, this is actually the first fight that I won that wasn't a cripple. Like, technically, yeah, we did stomp the cripple and win that, but this was a really important moment for my psyche, because it showed that it was possible, it showed I was learning, and it showed we could win a fight. At this point, I was considering that this whole challenge might be impossible, so this was a big moment. We looted the man, taking valuables such as his coins, his silver whip, and his teeth. It wasn't without cost though, as our normal dog had taken some pretty bad injuries. However, animal rights haven't actually been invented yet in Dwarf Fortress, meaning we were good to go. And it's with this character that I had been alive long enough to notice the survival mechanics. Like any survival games, if we don't drink water, eat food, or sleep, then we will die, and we'll actually receive some pretty heinous debuffs. This means I had to secure food, water, and rest without Googling or a tutorial. I tried to head to the river on the world map to try and secure some water, but it was all frozen over. Meaning I started to get a little bit concerned. However, I then had a big brain caveman moment as I melted snow to get water. This meant that we just needed food and we were good to go. Unfortunately, we weren't the only hungry creatures around as I stumbled into some wolves. At which point, my dogs immediately attacked. I was initially concerned by this, but it turns out my boys have hands. Or paws. Or more accurately, he shook around the wolf by its right paw. And to put a cherry on top, I actually managed, with some trial and error, to figure out how to butcher the carcass, leading to being able to eat meat. I never figured out how to cook it, so it was just raw meat, but hey, hunger is hunger. It was at this point that I home aloned myself and miscounted my dogs, meaning there was one missing. Where's my dog? I accidentally clicked the companion screen, which told me that it wasn't visible, which really, thanks game, super helpful. After stumbling around the forest for a while, the sounds of combat drew my attention. It turned out this dog had gone hunting the other wolves. My apologies, Ale, I was unfamiliar with your game. Given we were in a survival sandbox game and I had pelts and meat to sell, I immediately beelined for the nearest town. We ended up in a local market where 2 goblins were attacking each other, and with a single tear rolling down my cheek, I realized we were home. Wandering around the town a little bit, I entered into a room only to find a bunch of unguarded items. I then checked out the next room only to find a ton of steel armor, completely unguarded, along with gems and other valuables. The real test here is greed, because we're not a strong character. We can only carry 48 units, I'm going to refer to them as kilograms from now on. I had actually picked up 75 units, meaning I spent 30 minutes debating what to drop. So for the next half hour, I carefully sorted through all the items and ended up with 98 kilograms worth of stuff. From the perspective of the average market goer, this elf with 4 dogs in tow had entered into town, announced they had committed acts of violence, disappeared into a storeroom, and was now literally crawling into the market with new armor and pockets stuffed with gems, looking to trade. However, it turns out that the locals didn't have any currency to hand at all, preferring a barter system. Now, as someone who regularly tries to buy clothes with livestock, I can sympathize, but in a game such as this, that's not good for me. Crawling back to the storeroom, I can't believe this. So I'm looking at the footage right now. This is completely off script, but I've picked up another 30 kilograms of items. Why? Like, I knew, Laith, you know you can't carry that. Why do I have 120 kilograms worth of items? Why did I pick up more after crawling to the market? After an hour total at this place, hour and a half, really. I've managed to get myself some new armor, a new spear, and some gems, and it was time to make our way to the lair. This was objectively our best chance yet. We had the gear, we had the spears, we had the war dogs, and I approached in the dead of night. It is random chance, however, what enemies we will face. Opening the doors, we entered to find a goblin, a single goblin with a bow. This was specifically a sleeping goblin, so we did the honorable thing and stabbed him in the stomach.
Oh, the silver spear's lodged firmly in the wound. I don't know how to get my silver spear out.
That's right, my spear lodged inside the goblin, and I don't have any idea how to get it back. Desperately, I combed through menu after menu. I tried inspecting the goblin. I tried wrestling the goblin, but nothing I did would get me my spear back. I tried using the pickup button, but that did nothing, and after 10 minutes, I started to really panic. However, I did manage to figure out how to access the general interact menu, Shift-I think, and I was able to select my spear and try and gain possession of it back. The artifact was going to be somewhere in this place, and so knowing that if I could grab it and go, that's our victory condition. That would be the video over. I headed down the stairs apprehensively.
Let's go downstairs. Okay, there's lots of people here. Oh no, they got a jaguar.
Just in front of us, there are two jaguars, a weird mudman, a human hammerman, and a goblin. But worse than that, there are some bars. I tried everything I could think of, but I couldn't figure out how to get through these bars. It also looked to me like the enemies couldn't get out. We could have a conversation, but we couldn't fight. There was only one thing I could think of.
Really? After all this? Okay, what if we leave and come back?
We left. Found a camp and looted it. Spent around an hour trying to figure out how to drink water from a stream and almost dying of dehydration. My dogs decided to attack some badgers. Then we found a big tree to sleep in, resolving to go back to the lair the next day and hoping something had changed. I was really not looking forward to it because we had a successful character here. We'd won fights, survived in the wilderness. Frankly, I considered this a win already. But if we went to that lair and the bars were locked, we'd be forced to start all over again. Still, we had to try, and so we made our way there. Much more dangerous this time, a human axeman, a jaguar, and a goblin roaming the upstairs. This was a long, hard-fought battle in this doorway. The dogs took the brunt of the jaguar's attack, and Vadene took on the axeman.
I don't know if we're winning or not. Oh, an Arthri in the left front leg of Umil. My boys! He's recovering from attacking me with the silver warhammer. Strike him in the upper body. Stab, heavy attack. Do it. I'm not able to stand up. This is not good. One of my dogs is down. He's going after another one of my dogs. Just me and you, big man. Here we go. An artery's been opened up. Shattered his left floating rib. He's dead.
We'd come away with some pretty nasty injuries with the dogs at death's door. But we had won, so I went downstairs to claim my prize and finish the video.
And I still can't get in.
Look, I tried everything I could. I even threw a warhammer at the bars. But it didn't do anything to them. I hit the jaguar behind, but it didn't do anything to the bars. And so this run was over.
God damn it. Gotta make a new world.
Still, the blueprint was there. I knew how I had to do this, and so I rushed to make my next character with 2 war dogs. This is Thadar Reinghost, spoiled notch marble of baked. As I ran to the temple, I stumbled across 6 more dogs ready to be tamed, making me believe that this was the run. Look, I even told my girlfriend.
Check this out. I'm claiming loads of stray dogs. There's tons of them.
And they're following.
They are all following me. Now,
Why are they great?
I'm not sure why they're turning grey. Problem is I can't stand up properly. I'm having to crawl on the ground because they keep swarming me.
Oh.
These guys are going to be my...
Dog stands up. They're following.
Yeah, they're going to be my cannon fodder.
What?
She's currently moving her things out of the apartment whilst I make this video. So if you want to contribute on Patreon, that would really help with the rent because my rent just doubled. Anyway, the directions to find the priest, the only directions were up. And so I went up a series of precarious ledges with a large pack of dogs.
No! I may have knocked over a lot of dogs. The dog's neck skids along the ground and the parts smash into the body and like a recognizable map.
Still, I got my quest to retrieve the cosmic crystal, and my dogs did their thing of attacking every single living creature we came across. That included a jaguar we found outside the lair. Also, little side note, I'd found that I could arrow key in the direction of an enemy to auto-attack it, letting the game decide what attack I would perform. This led to questionable decisions.
You bite the fierce muscular jaguar in the mouth, tearing the muscle. Why did I start aggressively making out with the jaguar? Why?
This sort of behavior isn't helped when accompanied by this noise. Once we dispatched the jaguar, I was fairly confident of our chances this time around, given we had triple the amount of dogs. And I opened the lair to find...
Well, that's a lion! I mean, that's problematic, isn't it?
That's right, 2 more jaguars, a goblin, a swords dwarf, and a lion this time around. I'd like to say we acquitted ourselves well, but unfortunately the ledge was a bit of foreshadowing, as the sheer amount of dogs forced my character to crawl along the ground, unable to stand up. In Dwarf Fortress, when there are 2 characters occupying the same tile, they are forced to go prone. Neland, Skewered-Square, the killered skewered skink Lali. Oh my god. This is Neland, Skewered-Square, the killered skewered slink lady of problem. Can you tell by my inflection how many tries that took on camera for me to say? A spearman by trade, his only character trait is he wants to see the world bathed in chaos, and maybe that's why he made decisions such as taming 2 geese on the way and sprinting straight to the lair. In my defense, this was not meant to be a winning run. This was one where I wanted to try out the stealth system. This is not something I've mentioned prior because it's failed to work in every single run up until this point, and this one included. Sending in the war geese, we get an answer to the age-old question of who would win in a fight, a goose or a goblin, a weird ant thing, and a cheetah. Still intent on testing the stealth system, I sent in the geese as a distraction and then ran away, intent on coming back stealthily. This did not work.
That didn't work. That didn't work.
Turns out a big humanoid hairy creature is not exactly discreet. Attempting to run away, the weird ant thing eventually caught us and killed us instantly.
Ow, what? Oh!
All I've learned is that stealth means nothing to me, and some runs are just doomed from the start depending on what happens in the lair. We just don't know until we're already dead. I did want to test out some new builds, and so I sacrificed some armor to get more points to be able to buy some companions, specifically a tiger and 6 rattlesnakes. This is Reinghost the Goblin. I forgot to randomize their name. Upon seeing the lair, I was initially quite optimistic. When we opened the door, I saw a sleeping goblin, a pikeman, and a hyena that surely my tiger could take out. Unfortunately, at this point, I had been playing for 14 hours just in this session, and I was also ill, meaning I completely failed to see the fact that my goblin was in fact tired. This means that charging to battle is suicide, and given that the god theme of this one was a god of fruit, I think, that's not what we want. Pikeman stabbed Reinghost in the leg, and he was immediately out of the fight. So I was testing the rattlesnake's ability to inject venom, and they did inject venom into the hyena. I don't know what this guy was made of, because not only did he resist that, he killed all the snakes and then bodied the tiger. I'm never watching Tearzu again. That man led me to believe that a hyena would lose to a tiger, and yet here we are, the fraud. Giving up on the idea of companions, at this point I learned that you could actually increase the quality of your armor and weapons. So instead, I decked out a swords dwarf inspired by my earlier decapitation to create Arthri burial goats. Even better than that, right in my starting location, I found a storeroom that had steel and iron armor and weapons. Finding the lair this time, there's only a mudman and a blind cave bear guarding the upper layer. Now, after repeatedly smashing my head against a wall, the wall began to break. I now started to somewhat understand the combat system, meaning I targeted the right rear leg of the bear and crippled it, basically putting it out of the fight. The madman was even easier to kill. Oh, he's dead. Oh no. Yeah, this is a bad one. 2 more bears, a crossbowman, a pikeman, 2 more goblins, and a weird cult man. Running back to the doorway, I tried to fight them all one at a time. Despite a good showing, eventually our hit was struck, meaning the beginning of the end. As I went back to the main menu, I was sitting there thinking, damn, what a great start. I wish I could play that world again. And then I realized this was a button. Each time I was playing, I was creating a new world over and over and over again. But I didn't have to do that. That's not what Dwarf Fortress is about. What if we kept throwing character after character at the same lair? Eventually we'd whittle them down, right? Enter Uhos Peacefulmarket, the die clutter poet soldier of Ward. Wanting to see if my theory was correct, we geared up and ran straight there, only to find a familiar sight.
It is the same place.
This meant that it didn't matter if we died, we just needed to take out as many of them as we possibly could. Baiting them out, we fled south to make a stand.
Left knee is bleeding and torn apart, okay. Alright, take out as many of them as you can, lad. Just keep swinging. It's alright, son. He's lost control. I don't have any arms left. Headbutt him. I'm scratching him. Oh, God. There's another death. To carry the torch, we have Ushus Wrathtumbled, the Rush June's Tress Wavy of Pleated. This time, a halberd user, on her way, she stumbled across 6 dogs, ready to combine every scrap of knowledge that I'd gained up until this point. Entering from the south, we charged into the lair to find already weakened enemies.
Strike him with a heavy attack with the Iron Halberd, tearing apart the right kidney. Back in it, boys. Did he just die of shock? What was that? Yeah, he did. He just died of shock. Let's get in there. For those who come after. Hit her in the right lower arm. Nice! What did you just cut out of her? Left lower arm. Meanwhile, the bear is just tearing apart the dogs. That's a lot of red. I think she's dead. Come on, what did I do? Cut off their foot and their arm. I'm gonna kill the bear now. With my dogs having died or fled, it came down to me versus the cave bear. Just gotta kill the bear now. I've torn apart its left lung. Torn apart its liver. Oh God, I've been knocked backwards. Get up, son. It's just me and this bear. I've torn apart its spleen. I've torn apart its liver, its kidneys. It's still coming for me. A motor nerve has been severed. Just get rid of him. God, it's got so many arteries. Oh God, it's dead. Finally, everything was dead, and I started to search for the artifact we'd been told to retrieve. During my search, I even found a crown and put it on, rightfully so. And I even found a couple of my dogs still alive. Oh, there's a dog alive! Hello? Are you okay? You are healthy. But after a couple of minutes of searching, I still couldn't find the cosmic darkness. That's when I realized it wasn't here. I'd gone back to the same place, but the game had put the artifact in a different lair. We'd come so far only to clear a place for the first time, only to find out it wasn't here. I think this is where the story in the video has to end, to be honest. I mean, do you really think I'm the kind of person who would spend hours grinding more and rush to the other lair? Dingo, not a problem. Goblins, this character is a racist elf. This is what he does on his days off. We were getting the artifact no matter how many dogs had to die. After a quick snooze in the field, it was time to finish it. We've come a long way since scooping blood and bile into a quiver. We grabbed the cosmic darkness and sprinted back to the town as fast as we could. After dropping it on the floor of the temple, that is how I beat Dwarf Fortress, having never played it before and never using a tutorial. Oh my God, we did it. We did it. Oh, God. Oh, it took so... I mean, yeah, this is a sandbox game, so you can't really beat it per se, but I'm claiming that as a victory. Look, please let me have this. It took a long time. If you want to see more of this kind of content, then please make sure to put any suggestions in the comments down below. And whilst you're there, why not be a friend and like the video and subscribe? I'll see you next time. Goodbye.